This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, Jacob Wilson alongside. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing well.
There was a crazy college football weekend this weekend, Jacob.
It was.
I want to get your opinions on those before we jump into the first topic. Let's do rapid fire with Jacob, because you weren't here yesterday. That was Chris. And so, what's today? Tuesday? Yes, it was Chris.
Tuesday.
See, I'm getting old, Jacob. I forget what day it is. Okay, rapid fire. Texas, Oklahoma.
I mean, exciting. Very exciting. Both teams looked really good. Texas looked back like all the pundits want them to be. But Oklahoma, they just played a little bit better. It was all about who had the ball last, really.
Yeah. All right, Alabama versus Texas A&M.
I mean, we're starting to see cracks in the dynasty of the Saban era, I think. I mean, look, Alabama could rebound and come back next year and be the same Alabama. But we saw glimmers of it last year, but I think Bryce Young kept the foundation upright. But Jalen Milroe looks like he's very, very raw. But ultimately, I mean, they're able to beat the Aggies.
Okay, if you were a Texas A&M Regent and had $90 million just laying around, like just, silly, funny money, so to speak, what would you do?
I mean, I think every A&M Regent who has invested hard-earned money into that program, it's been a bad investment. And so if I had $90 million laying around, I mean, I personally would.
That's buyout money.
But if I'm
telling you, listen,
just to get rid of Jimbo.
You're a Texas oil billionaire. You have you have a helicopter to take you to the main helicopter, that kind of rich.
Yeah.
You've never had ketchup from a packet kind of a guy,
Then, yeah, I'm firing his ass and getting rid of $90 million to do it.
Yeah, because right now, what you've paid for, and I'll use this analogy again, they paid for a Rolls Royce, and they're getting Toyota Performance. Toyota's a fine automobile, but...
Now, Toyota is much more reliable than Jimbo Fisher. I think,
exactly.
I think you're thinking of the Volkswagen Tiguan.
Yes, that's the one that we got, almost got stuck in West Texas. Yes, that's what they are. Yeah, they're playing Rolls-Royce prices for Kia Performance. And not to knock that, but there's a difference. When I buy my Rolls-Royce, you can, lean back all the way in the seat.
I mean... all car analogies aside, this A&M offense actually looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Compared to how they've looked into the Jimbo era, but they're just not winning. Yeah. Max Johnson looks pretty good. And you see what Devon Achane is doing for the Miami Dolphins right now. Yeah. No one expected that because they never really saw that level of juice when he was an Aggie.
I did. They didn't use him enough, obviously. But yeah, I thought, especially when he went to the Dolphins, I was like, well, that's the perfect place for him to go.
Yeah.
Of course, now poor guy's hurt.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Georgia and Kentucky.
Is anyone really surprised about that one?
No, I mean, just Georgia finally woke up. Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised about it, but,
I didn't expect them to do to Kentucky what they did.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, there's people out there murmuring that Michigan should be ranked 1, and there's a chance that Georgia heard about that and was like, you know what? No, enough of that. We're gonna flex our number 1 muscle.
Michigan's been tested actually less than Georgia at this point too. So
Big time.
That still doesn't mean they're not really good, because every time somebody comes into their orbit, they just swat them away like a mosquito. But that's all that they. But they haven't played anybody all that great yet. Okay, first topic, Jacob. Full disclosure for our fans watching at home, you are a Baylor graduate.
That's true.
Should not be a surprise since we are a stone's throw away from that very institution. Dave Aranda won a conference championship 2 years ago, won a Sugar Bowl 2 years ago, finished off what is probably the best season in program history, because
it was.
Even with the other 2 conference championships in the Big 12, they didn't finish those off with bowl wins. They, in fact, disappointingly lost to UCF and then blew a gigantic lead against Michigan State in the Cotton Bowl. So Baylor has not looked good for 4 straight quarters in a game yet. They are 2-4. One of those wins is against an FCS team, and they didn't look good in that game. Like, they won that game by virtue of just being not the FCS team.
And they had a weather delay in that game, and I'm sure that they were like, "Hey guys, you know that this is an FCS team, right?"
Yeah. Like, just walk around and say that over again. Like, this is long. Like, this was a team we had to replace. Like, they were the last people we could get to come in here because we had a team, Louisiana Tech, bolt on the schedule from us. So don't get the last team that picked up the phone that had an open date, let them win here. And then, they looked okay against Utah, although Utah still.
I think that was they caught Utah on a sluggish day. It was an early game and they hadn't quite woken up yet.
Yeah.
And no one really knew what Baylor was at that point.
Yeah.
Too. Like, people didn't think that Baylor was going to be a team that is coming out looking as just they're sleepwalking. That's just the impression that I'm getting. And I mean, Dave Aranda, his presence on the sideline, he's just so emotionless that I wonder what's going through his head.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a smart enough coach to right the ship, but how does anybody know what's going on in his head?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave Aranda, I was reticent to put him on the hot seat because, I just know that they don't want that to be the case. No. He is in no way, administration-wise, he's in no way in the bullseye. That's not you could say that for Neil Brown. I think has taken himself off the hot seat. They're probably going to go at least 7-5, if not better, this year. And if he's 7-5 after what he did last year and beats Pitt and Tech and all these things, and you can't get rid of that guy. He's showing a lot of progress and dealing with injured quarterbacks and all the stuff he's done. So Neil Brown entered the season very much in the crosshairs. New athletic director, Ren Baker, who I don't think nobody really wants to fire a coach unless you just took the job and oh man, I can't believe I get to fire this guy I hate. But I don't think that normally happens in the world. So he didn't have a bullseye on him, but now that you've seen what's going on after the first 6 games, I'm starting to notice his name pop up among national columnists. For example, Adam Rittenberg today wrote a column about coaching searches like Michigan State and Northwestern and what they're going to try to look at there. And then teams on the hot seat: Jeff Hafley at Boston College, Tom Allen, Indiana, Dana Holgerson. I don't know if Dana's on the hot seat because they really like him there, but they're losing. They're not playing really well. They've got roster issues, and he might be over it. I think he's his own hot seat, in my opinion. I
mean, just based on some of the action that was on their sidelines last year, it kind of seemed like, there might be a lack of control in that locker room.
Yeah, I think he's kind of one thing you clear out some of that, but also it's does he want to? Is he one of those guys? There's a group of them coaches. I think Dabo's one of them. That I think in a couple of years, if Dabo just cannot wrap his arms around the transfer portal and NIL to the level that he needs to, that he's going to be I just don't want to. This is not the job that I liked doing, so I'm going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And Mike Gundy feels that way a little bit to me. That he'll just be I've got lots of money. I'm going to live in Oklahoma the rest of my life. It's not like cost of living is going to be that big a deal.
He's never going to pay for a drink in Stillwater again.
Yeah, all those things. Dana Holgerson fits that bill to me a little bit. Mississippi State, all those things, they're struggling. Arkansas, but to see Baylor on the list, it's not a shock to me, but it does say okay, here you go. You've got a team that's struggling. They've struggled now for over a year. I mean, this has been a season and a half now of them just not following up a conference title really well. I'm having a tough way seeing the path through for them because he's already fired his offensive coordinator after year 1. He fired his defensive coordinator after last year. Those moves have worked out, some of them in the short term. Defensive coordinator certainly not – there's not a lot of change there right now, and they might have a talent issue over there, which they maybe do across the ball. I'm just having a tough way seeing a path forward for them that ends in a bowl game this year, which I think saves his job.
I mean, if Dave Aranda wins 3 or 4 games this year, I think he's safe. Like, I think he would have to lose out the entire rest of the schedule to lose his job. And I say that, one, because he's finally moved past the era where he's using Matt Rule's players. This is his team now. And I think Baylor is not a school that can say, like, hey, we're a juggernaut. We can fire you if you don't perform excellently. Like, and another thing about Dave Aranda that I admire is that, and people don't really talk about it all that much, but he is a very devout Christian, very much a man of faith, and that's important at Baylor. Yeah. You don't find that very often. And so I think the fact that these are his players that he has recruited, and his strong, faith-based background, I think that those are things that make him safe through the rest of this year. But it's just his demeanor and his lack of any sort of emotion that makes people question, like, what's going on?
Yeah. I don't read so much into that. Like I think people want to, like, because the team's not playing well, they want to see him go Nick Saban and yell at a kid for having a false start. But if that's not who you are, you're not like, can't.
I'm not saying you have to be someone that you're not, but I think that they need someone on that sideline that's gonna, a foot in the ass kind of coach.
Yeah, that's probably, like, that's what I thought Matt Pallage was. I think Jeff Grimes has a little bit of that in him, but I do think that the overall vibe, and this is ultimately, to me, this is a talent issue and a scheme issue, in that you don't have the talent to run the scheme that you're trying to run right now. And you don't have it, and those are things that ultimately come down to the head coach. And so that's why I'm worried, I don't know what they're going to do against Cincinnati in 2 weeks. I don't know what they're going to do when Iowa State comes back here. After those 2 games, you kind of reassess. But if they keep their first road game, they almost got embarrassed and then climbed up out of the ooze and did something crazy, which was really just that. And so we'll see. I
don't know if it's Jeff Grimes or Blake Shapen, but you've got Monterey Baldwin on your team. They seem to forget that all the time. He's a phenomenal talent.
Well, Monterey Baldwin was partially responsible for that early in the season because I think he got in his feelings a little bit.
Quiet dogs don't get fed, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and now he was the one who came out and said, look, there's a lot of guys that are just kind of waiting for the other guy to do it. And that's not where they need to be. Look, in some of the moves that they went in the transfer portal. They have not done deep into the transfer portal, but right now there are 4 guys starting that are, 4? I guess 5. Presley's out of the portal. Keytron Jackson's out of the portal. Josh White's out of the portal, and the Barringtons are out of the portal. And are any of those guys
we've barely heard their names
worth the phone call that they made to get them? Right now, they're probably not, and
when you think about the portal, though, you have to consider, why were they in the portal?
Yes. Again, there's
Sam Hartman, he wanted to upgrade.
Yeah.
These guys, they wanted to go to a place where they could see the field.
Yeah. And there's many different shades of the portal. There's many, it's a big, gigantic store full of players. There's a bargain bin. The
TJ Maxx.
Yeah. How, Bruce Willis did this movie? What? I didn't hear about that. That one. And then there's the Sam Hartman, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, Keon Coleman bin, or part of the store where, you're going to.
You're the prettiest girl at the dance.
Yeah. You're going to go and you're going to get a guy who's going to help you right away.
Yeah.
And then there's this big middle of the store that is guys who are probably good players, maybe in the wrong spot, homesick, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That have all these different varying reasons for going somewhere, that you can grab from. And then that is the hardest thing going, I think we can use 2 offensive lineman brothers. Let's put those in the cart and take those up. And then you get it home and you're like, I don't know if we should have picked this one out. But then it's
but those
all sales are final kind of a thing.
Those are still the guys that typically are when they excel at the new school that they transfer to. A lot of credit should go to the coach for finding the right area for that player to be successful.
Yeah. And look, I think that the biggest issue is the offensive scheme right now.
Yeah.
Like, because I do think they have a talent deficiency, but I don't think their talent is so deficient that they couldn't be effective if they were running a scheme that these guys fit. Because I don't think the guys that they have fit the scheme that they're running.
I agree. Dominic Richardson, I think he's plenty talented enough to play on a good offense. Richard Reese was excellent last year at times, and
that's the biggest question mark of the year. The only game that you reasonably like, Long Island notwithstanding, the only game against a Power 5 team that you've won was the game that he and Monterey Baldwin got the ball the most. So
I mean, and Dawson Pendergrass has actually shown some. Like I didn't even expect him to play running back at the college level, and he's shown that he is hard to tackle.
Yeah. He's got some Mike Allstott vibes to him a little bit. Some touchdown Tommy Vardell. I don't know if you remember that far back.
I'm a student of this game, Paul.
Yeah. But, Mike Allstott. I had a football coach who was Mike Allstott's roommate in Purdue. Wow, man. Anyway.
I bet Mike Allstott could put him away if I were a betting man.
Yeah. No, but they lived in a house with like 7 football players in Purdue. At Purdue.
I mean, like that's just like a fraternity house, but everyone is enormous. Everyone can just do absolute damage that a regular normie college boy can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Just a couch with no legs on it, like we have here, because it just couldn't take it. It just couldn't take it. So no, I just, that my biggest concern is that this is a group of guys who's just checked out. Because when you hear Monterey Baldwin say what he said, then if you're Dave Aranda and the other guy's waiting around, like, why is he waiting around? That's your next little psychological project you have to work on. It's like, well, why aren't you excited to be here?
Exactly.
I mean,
this is Big 12 football, which this conference, which was at one point on life support, is now very, very exciting with adding these new teams this year and then getting 4 teams from the Pac-12 next year. This is going to be a very competitive conference going forward, and if you're not excited about that, why are you there?
Yeah. And the other problem I think Dave Aranda is going to have to overcome, Jacob, is look, he's a defensive genius, right? Well, the defense is as big a problem as the offense right now. Mm-hmm. And so by the same token of A&M being upset with Jimbo Fisher because he's, no longer the offensive guru that he's supposed to be, and that's why you hired him to come in.
Yeah.
Then it's the same thing with Dave Aranda. I think that Mack Rhodes will do everything he can to make it work because Dave Aranda is actually a wonderful fit here, like you said. Like his personal beliefs, his faith, his all those things. Like there's not many places that he could go that he's going to check some of the boxes that he can't here. It's part of the reason why, and here's the deal. Nobody's really been here outside of Grant Taft, and it's been a long time since Coach Taft coached here, that you could say, this is my program. But Kim Mulkey made it her program. Mm-hmm. Scott Drew made it his program. That's why Scott Drew's not leaving. Everybody's like, oh, when somebody comes for no, he's got everything he's ever wanted. A new stadium. He's got a national championship. He's proving he can do it here. His dad was at Valpo for 1,000 years. There's no reason.
And he's sending guys to the NBA.
He's sending guys to the NBA. There's no reason for him to leave. This is his program. If, Duke got mad at John Shire and wanted to hire Scott Drew, it's still he's taking over Coach K's program.
Yeah.
He can't go to UNC. That's still Dean Smith's and Roy Williams' program. Even Roy Williams won a title there, and he was probably well, it's still kind of Dean Smith's deal. This is who it is, but this is his. And Dave Aranda has the potential to do that here. I know him well enough to tell you he is not a guy, unlike the previous guy, who I don't think would have enough of a problem telling you this, was, happy to be here, but was always looking for big opportunities. And Matt Rule, Dave Aranda wants the old school Bobby Bowden, John McKay.
When you think of
here 100 years.
When you think of Baylor football in 50 years, you remember me first.
Yes, exactly. Like as I was here for 25 years. Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. Like that's what I think he can see here. But
we're far enough removed from the Grant Taft era where that thought is more than up for grabs.
Yeah. So this could be in the modern era. This could be his program, and the rules have broken to where you can do it. But you have to take advantage of all those rules, and they're not quite doing that yet.
No.
And I don't think he's against any of them. I don't think it's one of those things where he's like a Dabo Sweeney and said, "Listen, this is the way that Gene Stallings, my idol, did it by God, and I'm not changing." I think that Dave Aranda is willing to do it. He just hasn't figured out what his lane is in that yet, and the university has to, like many, I'll tell any college football fan out there that's not at like 20 schools that have probably stellar NIL for at least one program or another. Kentucky basketball is probably just like, oh, no problem. Here you go. Kansas basketball, Alabama football, Georgia football, like just NIL's, rolling and it's pretty smooth, right? Texas A&M seems to have a really good, program that was like a secret strike force that they just were like, oh no, now we can tell who we are. With superheroes hiding in the dark. Yeah. And then now the world is fine with them, kind of a thing. Baylor is one of the many schools that just didn't have the structure for it and is trying to find out the best way to do that. So anyway, but that's where I feel on that.
Yeah, I just it's hard to make heads or tails other than it'd be easy to just say, hey, they suck, but there's a reason why. That's why we're slicing and dicing the issue.
They've proven that this is no longer a place where you can say well, they just don't have the wherewithal to do it. They do. They absolutely do. And they've proven it, which is why it's now frustrating. But you're starting to see some fans veer into that apathetic.
I was at that game on Saturday. I can't say that I really blame them for feeling that way.
No, but you can't, you're entitled to feel how you want to feel most of the time. Sometimes it's just craziness. But when you have fans going apathetic, you've got to get a jolt, a big jolt. All right, in our next segment, Oregon versus Washington, the game of the year or the game of the year of the week? Because there's, last week Oklahoma and Texas could be the game of the year, or is that the game of the year of the week? So we'll see. But Oregon and Washington, the game of the year or the game of the year of the week. This is the triple option on 365 Sports.
Like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside old pal Jacob Wilson. Jacob, Oregon and Washington play this week. This is two Titans in the Pac-12 right now. The two teams that here's the thing. I wonder if they sit around and be like, did we kill the Pac-12 or did you kill the Pac-12? Who did it? Let's be honest.
It's the Ron Swanson coffee machine quandary.
Yeah, it is. But there are, you could say UCLA and USC are the ones who.
It was them.
Yeah, they're the ones. They're the ones who did it. Everybody else just, kicked the body a little bit just to make sure
they got their stabs in, even though it was a cadaver at that point.
Yeah, I mean it was already a dead man walking, and they didn't realize it. They just finished it off. So, like who kills you in the firing squad, right? Like if everybody shoots at you and all the bullets hit.
Yeah, I mean it's like if Godzilla is coming through your city and you're a soldier on the streets and you're shooting it, tons of rounds going off, and then he falls over dead, and you look at your buddies and be like, I don't want to brag, guys, but I think that was me.
I got him. I think if any of you guys saw it, like I'm sure there's some tape on these GoPros here. You'll see that it was clearly mine that went into one spot. I could get him. Not the plane either, not the missile. Those aren't going to get him. Everybody knows that. So, but Oregon and Washington this week, two outstanding quarterbacks in Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Two fun offenses. Oregon's probably a little bit better on defense than Washington is. Oregon has not had a scare yet. Washington has. I guess Oregon has had a scare. They played Texas Tech. That was a scare for them. Mm-hmm. So they've each had a scare. Washington a couple weeks ago with Arizona and their backup quarterback, as a matter of fact, in that game, kind of pushed it to the limit on Washington. I think that if you look around, outside of like Georgia's had a scare, the only teams at the top who haven't had scares are is Michigan. I think,
If you haven't had a scare, you haven't really been tested.
Yeah, I mean, so like, and a scare doesn't always mean you're, Florida State almost blew it against Boston College. Oklahoma did not play the best game against SMU. Ohio State needed a blunder of epic proportions to beat Notre Dame. So I can go through,
Yeah.
Look, USC, who's ranked right behind them, is avoiding. I mean, they've avoided doom against Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona now.
USC, side note, like indicative of the Pac-12 being as exciting as it is, in their last season, like you mentioned a couple weeks ago, they choose to have their opus when they're on the way out the door. But USC, I think their lack of defense and having Caleb Williams just makes their game so much fun to watch.
Well, I mean, it's just, they were down 17-0 to Arizona this last week, and Caleb Williams just said, all right, hold on.
I think he wants to join Archie Griffin in that very elite club of only one.
Yeah.
Because there's a handful of Heisman candidates out there. Caleb Williams is still number one in my eyes, but the other two are playing in this game that we're about to talk about.
You know how much I've veered off the road since Sunday night on the Cowboy season, in that I would not care if they did not win another one if it meant they were going to get Caleb Williams. That's how much I would be like, I would do anything for that to be the case. Like they don't make guys like that. Like there's one other guy like it. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. He's the guy that if you're a high school coach and you've got your players watching Caleb Williams, you're like, damn, I don't want my players to try and play like that because there's just no way that they can.
No. The other thing is you can't you have to brace them for the film, right? You have to walk it. Like when Caleb was in high school in Maryland, every coach that played against him had to brace the kids for the film. Like, look, this kid's going to do some things that he's really good. And then you try to get him psyched up. I'll tell you, who that would have been in high school for me. Now I played my junior year and lost to Travis Henry, who went on the NFL. I think he's in prison now, but he played for the Bills and Titans. He played for Tennessee.
Famously fathered 10 kids with however many baby mamas.
That's Travis Henry. And one of our coaches before the game got us all fired up going, nobody's that good. Nobody's that good. Like a quarter in, he's rushed for 180 yards already and comes off the field. And one of our guys goes, Coach, he's that good. He's that good. Yeah, he is that good. The one it would have been my senior year, had we not lost in the first round of the playoffs, we would have had to play Pahokee High School. And the quarterback for Pahokee was Anquan Bolden. And I remember coming back the next year, when you come back to your high school when you're a freshman in college and you go see the coach. And I was like, Coach, I really feel like we could have made a run. He's like, look, you're not here anymore, so I can tell you this, we would not have. And he goes, come in the office. He's like, I keep this game tape all the time because you know who this guy is. And he put it in and he goes, that's Anquan Bolden. I was like, oh, that's coming to FSU with me, right? Yeah. Watch this. Could you guys have done anything against this guy? Nope, couldn't. No. And that's how it is. Like, Caleb Williams is that good to where, it's just like, look, I mean, hopefully it's raining or like something happens or, he gets a penalty and gets kicked out of the game. I don't know. Like,
I mean, I feel like the Heisman voters veer, like once a returning Heisman or a Heisman winner returns to college football, I feel like people don't think about him repeating and getting another trophy.
Well, and a lot of times because they have, defenses will like be everybody but this guy is going to beat us. Like, we'll take the chance if we can slow this guy down. Johnny Manziel probably could have done it to himself a little bit. Jameis Winston, the team was just kind of like, they were so talented, they didn't really need to try until the fourth quarter when he came back. I'm trying to think of Tim Tebow. That team was actually better the next year than they were when he won it. But they were not going to let Tebow beat you on 1-yard runs. The problem was that like, oh, well.
But Caleb Williams is still doing Caleb Williams.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Tebow was a candidate and he got votes, but he wasn't nearly as good, at least statistically, the next year. So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, we veered off the path of this one, but I'm having fun with this topic. So
I am too.
I don't give a shit. But I think that like you've got guys that could maybe have won it again, but like I think they do like, well, we don't want to do that again because sometimes it's not that creative a decision, right? Yeah. Well, let's just give it to the guy we already gave it to. Well, really, I think those times make writers have to think a little bit harder. The people who vote for it makes you have to think a little harder. Like, okay, are we just going to give it to the guy we've already given it to, or is there someone else who deserves this?
I mean, there's these biases, whether they're conscious or subconscious, but it's the reason Herschel Walker didn't win a Heisman Trophy his freshman year at Georgia because he was a freshman. That's what it was. And I think if Caleb Williams, the way he's playing right now, if he keeps doing everything that he's been doing, it's going to be really hard to change my opinion on why he shouldn't get another Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, look, if there's just
because without him,
take another good quarterback in the country right now.
Bo Nix, Michael Penix
Jr., and those guys are really good. Take those two guys and put them with that defense that can't back them up. I don't think they can do what Caleb Williams is doing.
No, because USC is not really that great of a team if Caleb Williams goes down.
Yeah, I mean, like they've got skill players that like they've got great wide receivers, they've got great running backs, their offensive line's fantastic. There's no problems on the offense, but the problem obviously is the defense. So yeah, I mean, look, take Riley Leonard at Duke. If he's healthy, really excellent, efficient quarterback, tough guy. Like if you tell Riley Leonard, like, hey, I need you to bring us back from 24 down, he'd be like, I mean, I'm going to give it my best, coach. Caleb Williams, like, you know what? Let him score again.
Yep.
then I'll do it. That'll be more fun for me. Like that's how good he is. But back to Oregon and Washington and the task at hand here, Jacob. These are two teams that are kind of devoid of weakness, and it's kind of like Oklahoma and Texas all over again, back-to-back weeks. And if you look at the games around it, there's not as many like big hotshot games this week, but it could be one of those ones where, we're starting to see the apple cart upset a little bit. But as far as the college football playoff goes, this one is enormous.
Yeah, I mean, one of these two teams will be playing in the Pac-12 title game. Mm-hmm. I'm firmly convinced of that.
And maybe both of them.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't consider that there could be a rematch, but it's very exciting. Like the reason we went off on the Heisman tangent is because these two quarterbacks. It's pretty rare in college football when two quarterbacks that everyone who's a fan knows who the quarterbacks are, and both of them are contending for awards as the team contends for a national championship. And I'm really excited. I am.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Look, and this is a Heisman moment game. Penix and Dylan Gabriel had his Heisman moment, and he kind of ripped it away from Quinn Ewers for the time being. Not that none of that's permanent, but Dylan Gabriel had his Heisman moment against Texas on Saturday. So it's going to be Bo Nix, it's going to be Michael Penix that has the moment. Like maybe they both will. Maybe it's neither of their faults that either of them lose. Quinn Ewers had 3 turnovers. Huge reason Oklahoma. Maybe the reason Oklahoma won that game was those 3 turnovers. And especially early on where Texas could not – I don't think Texas is a team you want to get behind.
No.
Because they have Jonathan Brooks and they can just like go. I think Oregon's that way too. I don't think if you saw what they did to Colorado, now that was always going to be kind of like a big time blowout game, I think, but maybe not I say big time blowout game. I was thinking they're going to win by like 20, not 36.
However much it was.
42-6, and that one was just they took Colorado's guts out, but if they're ahead and you can like just give the ball to Bucky Irving and the running backs and throw when it's 3rd and 5 and keep moving, I think like that's an offense that can really kind of choke you out. Mm-hmm. And Washington, if you let them get ahead, like if you get in a shootout, like they're going to be comfortable just going like, okay, boom, boom, boom. They have 2 or 3 NFL wide receivers on their team right now. Romeo Odunze is going to be a first-round pick. Jalen McMillan is probably going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. They've got running backs out the wazoo. One of them is Will Nixon, from right here at Midway High School. I did his games. You were in the Marines then, but he was fantastic. He's perfect for that system. So Kalen DeBoer's got something going there, and Dan Lanning's got something going in Oregon, and that they've got of course the Pac-12 situation is only similar to the Big 12's in that the Big 12, the 2 best teams in the league are right now are leaving and might win it on the way out, as where whoever wins the Pac-12 title, unless it's Oregon State or Washington State, is leaving. So their scenario is even probably worse in that, this is going to be the last Pac-12 championship. But these are the 2 teams I would say right now that are now heads and shoulders favored above everybody else.
Yeah, I think these are the 2 teams that are going to come into the Big Ten next year and be a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, you can debate USC and UCLA on that.
I think
issue.
USC is going to be a problem. I think the thing is that
I think Oregon and Washington will be better.
Well, I mean, Caleb Williams is going to be good, but Caleb Williams. Here's the other thing, though, you got to take into consideration. All 3 of them will be breaking in new quarterbacks next year. UCLA won't. UCLA with Dante Moore will actually be bringing their guy back, their 5-star stud quarterback back. And USC will be probably Malachi Nelson, and Oregon could be Austin Novosad. I don't know who it's going to be. And then Washington will be breaking a new quarterback. But that could be anybody. We don't know who that is. Like there's, in this era of college football, like it's not necessarily just the guy who's sitting there playing behind him right now. Yeah. So that to me is going to be interesting. USC is going to have to get better on defense if they want to take the next step, because Lincoln Riley will always get a quarterback. He's always going to have an offense, but
it's been the theme. If his teams ever lose, it's because of defense.
Oh yeah, they've never last year when they lost to Utah, Caleb Williams was playing on a sprained knee, but mostly if the defense had taken care of business, that wouldn't have been a problem. When they lost to Tulane, right? If the defense makes stops, on 4th and 11 late in the game and stops Michael Pratt, you don't lose to Tulane. Like all of those things, they've got to bow their necks a little bit. When we come back, one of the teams we might have talked about, which is the next team that's at the top that is going to disappoint. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Jacob Wilson joins us now. And Jacob, Of the top teams, who do you feel the next one to disappoint will be?
I'm looking at Garrett just because, I mean, of the teams that I expect to disappoint, like they're the top four, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State, all getting first place or number one votes. I don't know. You're going to hate me, but I'm going to say Florida State.
Okay, who are they going to lose to?
Let me take a look at the rest of their schedule real quick.
Just tell me. I'll tell you why they will and why they won't to every single team on their schedule. Well, depends.
Maybe I misspoke, but I've just seen, Jordan Travis is a phenomenal quarterback, talent, and he's got weapons. They've made good use of the transfer portal, but they've got a target on their back now that they've made it back into national prominence.
Yeah.
Clemson gave them a run for their money.
Clemson's still good though.
Clemson's still good. They're not
great. Clemson is good. They're not explosive anymore. So,
but it would be really fun for me to say Miami.
Well, they've already did that. Oh, you mean Miami disappoint? No, Miami. Look, here's the deal. Florida State's going to get everything they except for last year, which was a blowout in Miami. Mm-hmm. Especially given what Mario Cristobal just did, like he is going to pull every fiber of his coaching DNA into that game because that will get to the point of like, well, at least we beat FSU. Mm-hmm. Like the Georgia Tech thing, I'll never forgive, but at least we beat FSU. So Miami has, I think, in my opinion, the toughest schedule left in the ACC because they still have to play UNC next week, Clemson the week after that, Florida State and Louisville in back-to-back weeks. So if they make it through that unscathed, then you can forget about Georgia Tech. Like it was a stupid thing and it's unforgivable, but holy cow, that's a rebound right there. So yeah. I think Florida State's benefit to them, at least when it comes to Miami, even though it's a huge rivalry game and every player on the team hates each other's guts and all those things, is that Miami will have had to go through a little bit more of a gauntlet as where Florida State will have had play Syracuse, who they should handle, who's good, but the gap between Syracuse and the other good teams in the ACC is pretty prodigious, as you see when they play one of those teams. They got to play Duke, and we'll see about Riley Leonard. That'll be a tough one, but also never lost to Duke, so let's not start now.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's one of those teams that I think Mario Cristobal is the right coach, and I think they're trending where they want to. But watching them this year, Georgia Tech game notwithstanding, I've always just sensed that they're one more year from being those guys. But that being said, like it'd be fun to see a good matchup between Miami and Florida State because, like you mentioned, yeah, after that one, if they're a good team at all, they're going to come in with a fire under their butt. And it was Miami and Duke. Why can't Florida State beat Duke? That's the question I have for you.
Why couldn't they beat Duke?
Yeah.
Duke's tough on defense. Florida State won't be able to run the ball. They'll try to force things down the field. Duke will make plays. I just what's gotten Florida State by in the close games they have. Like the reason they beat Clemson eventually was they had more athletes than Clemson. The reason that they beat Boston College was twofold. They were able to build up a big enough lead to quiet Boston College down for a second. And then Boston College committed 1 billion penalties, literally on every other snap, including the play that they could have gotten the ball back at the end of the game. They had a face mask. So, not only did you commit a penalty, you didn't commit a 5-yard penalty, an offsides that made a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 2. You made a 3rd and 7, a first down and run out the clock.
Right.
That's what they did. And that's why their coach is kind of on the hot seat, because he has ththese moments where oh, hey, they don't look so bad. Oh, no, that was a stupid way to lose. That's why look, here's the other reason. They're 19-0 against Duke all time, and this is the first Duke team that's legitimately scary to them. Even in their bad years, Duke was not scary. Thank God there's Duke on the schedule.
Yeah, that was
so. No, I buy. I think, I personally, after what I saw with Ohio State and Maryland this week, think Ohio State is gettable, very gettable. And they have Penn State and Wisconsin back-to-back weeks, and not to mention Purdue next week. Let's not count out the Boilermakers upsetting Ohio State, Jack. I did that for you. I don't believe it, though. I don't believe it. I just said
The spoiler makers.
I just said it so I didn't hurt his feelings. But
I mean, why do we care about schools that play in Indiana anyway?
but yeah, Penn State and Wisconsin. Of course, Penn State wouldn't be a disappointing loss. That's a team that could legitimately win the national title, in my opinion, the way that they play on both sides of the ball. They're a team that I actually don't think, really has, outside of Ohio State and Michigan, much of a chance to lose either. I think we could see a Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech situation on that side of the Big Ten.
Run that back one more time.
So you remember in 2008 when Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Texas all traded beating each other?
Uh-huh. So
they went to like the three-way tiebreaker, which then brought on the whole, like, here we're going to have one true champion.
One true champion. Yeah. That aged so poorly.
And so fast. Even when they announced it at Big 12 Media Days, I think it was Dennis Dodd, who we have on the show today, was like, hey, by your own rules, that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing, I'm not even a whole paragraph in, and you could very easily have a tie again.
It's not even a pair. It's 3 words.
But. Yeah. So say Penn State beats Ohio State, but loses to Michigan, and then Ohio State beats Michigan, which Ryan Day needs badly, because he could lose one game every season. If that's the one game, they'll be like, our coach sucks.
Yeah, there's ridiculous chatter all the time about Ryan Day being on the hot seat, and that's simply why, because he lost to Michigan at one point.
Twice. He's lost to Michigan 2 years in a row. And so, let's not let him off the hook, but Ohio State fans treat that like double murder. He didn't just lose to Michigan once accidentally. He did it twice in a row and got mauled both times doing it. So,
as a Baylor grad, I just got keep things in perspective and appreciate where you are when you're there, because come on. I know it's a very intense rivalry, but come on, man.
But they had such control of it for 20 years. Between Lloyd Carr and Jim Harbaugh, they had total control of the rivalry. It was, there was a couple of one-offs, but they had just, for the whole time, when Lloyd Carr walked out the door, it was like Michigan said, all right, we're pretty much not going to win this thing for a while. Mm-hmm. And we're going to keep trying to hire guys who can win this thing, and they couldn't. And then Jim Harbaugh finally has and flipped the script on them. But that's why. But, again, I think if you polled, Ohio State fans and said, you're 11-1 every season. Now, going into the 12-team playoff, you're 11-1 and probably going to make the playoff. But the one every season, you'll beat Penn State, you'll beat USC, you'll beat Oregon, you beat all these new teams in your conference. If Clemson comes in, you'll beat them too. Whatever it is. But you will lose to Michigan every year, right before the championship game. Does that coach get to – and say that coach even wins a national championship with a loss to Michigan 11 years in a row on his resume? I think a larger portion than would be, reasonable would be no, we can't have that guy. Can't have that guy. And – I know I painted an impossible picture for you, but
I'm far enough removed from all things Ohio State to where I can view that objectively. Yeah. But as of right now, the only reason I didn't say Ohio State when you asked the big question, who's going to disappoint, is just the strength of their schedule. Even though they have Penn State, and
Wisconsin's only lost once.
Wisconsin's only lost once. Mm-hmm. But, Florida State, the ACC has Syracuse, and they're playing them. Florida State plays Syracuse this weekend, and they're kind of that snake that you don't think about that can occasionally bite you.
I'll just tell you, I think Syracuse has proven over the years who they are. They will beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and then when it comes time to play, Clemson and North Carolina, the last 2 weeks, that's
do I think Syracuse wins? No. But all I'm saying is that they're the spoiler makers of that conference.
And where Florida State will lose a game, because if you look at their second halves, they've given up like 7 points, 7 points, 7 points, 10 points. They don't give up points in the second half, but they'll have a bad first half that they won't be able to overcome.
Yeah.
And it's time for them to start hey, maybe defensively, do what you do in the second half first, and then put a team behind so much that they can't catch up. That's kind of what they did at Virginia Tech this week, but Virginia Tech had their little moment in the sun, and then, that ended quickly. So it's almost like they like to turn into the skid a little bit, So yeah, no, I can see. Look, believe me, until they are in the college football playoff, I won't believe that they're actually going to make it. I've seen this team the last 5 years disappoint so much, 6-7 years. Really disappoint so much. And there were some years where I didn't think that they were, going to be that good. But I watched them last year look really good early in the season, and then play the middle of their schedule, which was the good teams in the ACC, and lose 3 in a row. So they haven't lost since then, but those guys are all still there. It's one of those things. But yeah, I think Ohio State's a team that I could peg. I mean, we could put USC in this discussion, but I think we've kind of already said in the last segment, eventually we think that they're going to.
Yeah, their lack of defense will catch up with them at some point.
They can't keep playing. They might look. I don't think Notre Dame's going to beat them this week, because even Notre Dame's offense against that defense, I still don't think will keep up with that. But you never know. North Carolina's an interesting one. They're outside the top 10 and undefeated at 5-0. I don't see them really getting hiccuped until they play Clemson later in the year, because I think they're a lot better than Miami right now, and that's who they play them next week. And then Virginia, Georgia Tech, Campbell, Duke could be interesting against North Carolina, and Riley Leonard would probably be fully healthy by then. Duke and Clemson, and then NC State at the end of the year. So, yeah, they've got a pretty interesting path for them. But I just don't see any of those teams until they get to Duke and Clemson really jumping up and biting them. So they wouldn't be really the next team to disappoint. It would have to be somebody pretty soon. So, yeah, I think Ohio State in the next couple weeks has got to be on alert. Although they played well in the fourth quarter, but Maryland for 3 quarters really pushed Ohio State.
Yes, they did.
Really pushed them.
I mean, young quarterback in Kyle McCord. They don't have the C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields that you think of. And so, yeah, that's definitely another argument against Ohio State there. But he's got a lot of fun toys to play with in that offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's see. We got a couple minutes left here, Jacob. Let's just run through some notes real quick. Is that Travis Hunter could play Friday against Stanford, so that's exciting. He's back from potentially his lacerated spleen, liver. What happened to him?
Yeah, it was something kind of odd and internal that you don't normally think of. But you see the video montage of him and whoever the kid that was that injured him from Colorado State, went bowling together.
Yeah, that was really cool a couple weeks ago. I think college football going to be a lot more fun to watch with Travis Hunter in it as they head down the stretch on their schedule. They won a game where they came back at the end again and won this last week against Arizona State. So Colorado getting bowl eligible after making not only the most interesting flip. They were 1-11 last year. Let's talk about a roster flip of all roster flips too, because you're going to have to. You could not have gotten Colorado to bowl eligibility doing it the old way. If Deion came in and no, listen, I believe in these kids. They've got gumption. Spunk, I tell you, spunk.
Yeah, it's not exactly Newt Rodney out there.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody could have done it. There's not a coach. You could have said Nick Saban, Alabama is, you can go back in a year, but you have to go make this roster at Colorado bowl eligible. You can't take any transfers. You have to play the same roster. He'd been pass.
Yeah.
And if you do it, there'll be world peace. He's like, no, I don't want that on me.
No.
I don't want that on me. So yeah, they're knocking on the door of bowl eligibility. Another game interesting this week, I think, is Tennessee and Texas A&M in the all bowl. Like, yeah, well, that was fun while it lasted.
It's two teams that have already either underwhelmed or disappointed already, and so. It's not a game that unless you are an alum or a fan, you're not exactly excited to watch it.
No, absolutely not. And it's and I do think that Miami and North Carolina I said next week. That's this week. Miami and North Carolina this week will be interesting to see how Mario Cristobal comes back from. Like everybody gets one brain lock as a coach where you can be like, man, that was just a rookie mistake. The thing is, and we talked about it yesterday on the show. He's done it twice.
Yeah,
he did it against Stanford when he was at Oregon in 2018. So if I were Miami AD after this year, I'd sit down and be like, listen, Mario, I think you're doing a great job recruiting. I think I've seen a lot of good things about this program. There's excitement around it. There's funding. There's NIL. There's all these things. Like we might actually one day convince the alums to help us in the city, to help us build our own stadium so we don't have to play, in a stadium that's
wherever
not
the
ours.
Dolphins
Yeah,
play,
wherever the Dolphins are. Yeah, we don't have to play there anymore. But I just have to tell you one thing: let's learn from our mistakes, because fool me once, shame on me, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, and we don't win anything.
Yeah,
I do think it begs the question: if you were Tyler Van Dyke, it's 23 seconds left in the game, and they called that play, would you just gone to like, no, we're taking a friggin' knee? Do you have the stones to look at your offensive coordinator and your head coach and go, no?
Are you calling Tyler Van Dyke a wimp? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just wonder, like, did it occur to him to do that? And then I know the culture of players and coaches is, coaches coach and players play, so you do what they tell you to do because you're trying to follow along with them. But I just wonder if they had been like,
yeah, let's get out here and win. But,
and then he just goes back.
I think, as a veteran of the Marine Corps, when you're given orders, sometimes you don't even think. You just do it.
Okay, that's a great way to put it. Like, and then you look back and be like, well, it could have been done better.
Oh, I thought that many times.
You ever just get on the radio and be like, hey, Captain, not to be insubordinate here, but you want to take a step back and rethink this?
Yeah, instead of incinerating that C4 that you tried to get us to evaporate or explode, we have Marines eating it out here. That's a real thing. I saw.
We've been just kicking around this idea on the table here, kind of a quorum over here of us guys. What do you think about that? We're out here and you're there, so just wanted to give you some boots on the ground intel.
That's actually indicative of good coaching, I would say, though, because if you've got players that do what you want, you just gotta hope they execute. Yeah. But you've got players that are doing what you want. That means that you have a semblance of control. Yeah. But you're the coach. You got to be able to make the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, thank you so much. I know it was late notice, but always a great addition to the show. Mm-hmm. Miss seeing you every day.
Me too.
Yeah, miss you terribly. Jack doesn't. He's always talking crap about you. I don't know why. Yeah, see, that's even worse. That's even worse.
I feel like I just received the John Hamm gift from Mad Men. I don't think about you at all. Yeah. I've got a picture of you framed in my bedroom, by the way.
Yeah, but thanks to Jack. Tomorrow, Steven Simcox will be here, and I will dive more into his fractured psyche of what is going on with TCU. Was a topic last week. We have to get to it again this week because that'll
be fun.
They are
not for him, but
no,
it'll be fun.
And now on a backup quarterback. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.